All right, good evening, YouTube. We're going to jump right here into the Tao Te Ching. Chapter 29. Do you want to rule the world and control it? I don't think it can ever be done. The world is a sacred vessel and it cannot be controlled. You will only make it worse if you try. It may slip through your fingers and disappear. Some are meant to lead, and others are meant to follow. Some must always strain, and others have an easy time. Some are naturally big and strong, and others will always be small. Some will be protected and nurtured, and others will meet with destruction. The master accepts things as they are, and out of compassion avoids extravagance, excess, and extremes. It's just how it is. And depending on your perspective, it may not seem fair, but the master accepts things as they are. Chapter 30. Those who lead people by following the Tao don't use weapons to enforce their will. Using force always leads to unseen troubles. In the places where armies march, thorns and briars bloom and grow. After armies take to war, bad years must always follow. The skillful commander strikes a decisive blow, then stops. When victory is won over the enemy through war, it is not a thing of pride. When the battle is over, arrogance is the new enemy. War can result when no other alternative is given. So the one who overcomes an enemy should not dominate them. The strong are always weakened with time. This is not the way of the Tao. That which is not of the Tao will soon end. Chapter 31. Weapons are the bearers of bad news. All people should detest them. The wise man values the left side, and in time of war he values the right. Weapons are meant for destruction, and thus are avoided by the wise. Only as a last resort will a wise person use a deadly weapon. If peace is her true objective, how can she rejoice in the victory of war? Those who rejoice in victory delight in the slaughter of humanity. Those who resort to violence will never bring peace to the world. The left side is a place of honor on happy occasions. The right side is reserved for mourning at a funeral. When the lieutenants take the left side to prepare for war, the general should be on the right side. Because he knows the outcome will be death. The death of many should be greeted with great sorrow. And the victory celebration should honor those who have died. Chapter 32. The Tao is nameless and unchanging. Although it appears insignificant, nothing in the world can contain it. If a ruler abides by its principles, then her people will willingly follow. Heaven would then rain on earth like sweet rain falling on paradise. People would have no need for laws because the law would be written on their hearts. Naming is a necessity for order, but naming cannot order all things. Naming often makes things impersonal, so we should know when naming should end. Knowing when to stop naming, you can avoid the pitfall it brings. All things end in the Tao. just as the small streams and the largest rivers flow through valleys to the sea. Mm. I like this. I'm looking at this here. Naming is a necessity for order. Oh, you gotta put a name to stuff. Put it in a box. I gotta give a title to it. It's a necessity for order, but naming cannot order all things. Some things you just can't name, you can't put words to. And naming often makes things impersonal. So we should know when naming should end. You don't have to put a name and title to everything. Because once you name it and you categorize it and put it in that box, it makes it impersonal. It's hard to kind of get past that name, that title, that, because it's now is defined. I've giving it a name. And when you define it, even our own names, our name, our person that we've been given, or that we change it to, or whatever, it can make you impersonal. You're defined now by your name, categorized, and you are treated accordingly. People will treat you according to that name. That name carries some, energy to it. Or people will base it off of who they know you to be, or who they knew you to be, or who they thought they knew you to be. They didn't really know you at all, because the name, your identification, has made you impersonal. And it's sometimes people don't even think to get past that, that box that you've been put in, because that identification that you've been given. Knowing when to stop naming, you can avoid the pitfall it brings. You said you was A, and I saw you doing the opposite of that. Well, I'm human. I'm more than just that particular thing, that particular category. Or I say I'm this, that, and the other, these particular names, these categories, or I am, my name, or my last name, identify myself with a particular community or tribe or whatever the case may be. So I cannot go outside that box, even if I want to. Okay? It brings pitfalls. All right. That's it. Peace.